I'm Mark. I actually started my own company this year, so currently about 6 months into that now. And essentially, I look to work with SMEs to help them improve their online conversion. So my background has very much been as a UX designer, a researcher, and a strategist. I've got over 14 years experience now, so it kind of felt like the right opportunity to sort of go it alone and see how I can start helping more organizations to, as I say, improve their conversion by bringing in human-centered methodologies into their organizations. Recent kind of studies have been a mixture of some one-to-one interviews, been doing quite a bit of unmoderated usability testing to help iterate on a prototype as part of a website redesign that I'm working on. I've also recently done a mix of open and closed card sorting tests, firstly to generate some ideas for how we might look to group and label content together, and then to confirm whether or not that categorization that we were looking to put in place did indeed meet the way that people would go about finding information. So yeah, it's been everything really. Probably most of the tools I've used on there, from the 5-second testing, the click testing, the preference testing, has definitely been one I've used several times as well. So yeah, a fair bit of experience with the tool over the years. I suppose first and foremost, it's about ensuring that the needs and expectations of our users and our customers are genuinely being considered throughout the entire organization, and that the impact of it is, being truly customer centric is being measured as well. So the ideal is that we're user driven in everything that we're doing, and that the users and customers are at the heart of all the key business objectives and the initiatives that we look to undertake. And of course, the key to success is that the people within the organisation are all bought into this as well, and to see how by being people-centred, it's going to help make their jobs easier and also more rewarding as well. And a real key thing for me, when we talk about a people-centred culture, is to go beyond it just being the UX team and that adopt this mindset, because that's ultimately not going to get us very far. One of the things I like to look at is the sort of UX maturity. Nielsen Norman Group have a really good sort of UX maturity scale feature on the website. And I think that's a really good thing to refer back to, actually, because it'll at least give you direction for where you need to be heading towards if you are looking to change a culture within an organization. So, there are many ingredients involved in getting a culture in place and to make a success of it as well. But the key thing is, I think, for a UX type of team in an organization to be the ones that are driving that change, because it has so many benefits for the whole business, but it's about getting these across and the ultimate value that it can have. But this is difficult, it does take time, but I feel given what we generally stand for working in a UX team, we're definitely the ones that can help bring that kind of attention to it and then get it widespread in the organization. I think, first of all, I've always believed it truly can be a key differentiator in helping your organization stand out against the competition. If you're truly in tune with your customers and you're having those active discussions with them, you're collecting the data and feedback at the right moments and so on, you're going to be focusing on delivering experiences that are genuinely going to provide that best-in-class user experience. And if you do this, why would your customers go elsewhere? I think secondly, also, it ensures that the business roadmap is built around addressing the real problems that need solving. So, rather than making decisions based on your assumptions or what you think your customers want, you're being driven by that robust understanding of what these problems are, why they're a problem, and how you're going to solve them as well. And I think also, just on that point, I do think in sort of the UX field, we have a tendency to focus on problems, but by also embracing this type of culture, it does also help you to discover the opportunities that can have a real impact on your business. And I hate to overuse the word innovation, but by at least having that deep understanding and empathy to your customers throughout an organization, it's going to reveal really interesting things about them. And all these things can be used to inform the ideas that you generate, and then look to prototype with, test and refine those ideas into user experiences that are actually going to make that real difference and impact on people's lives. And then I think last but certainly not least, it's the impact that this culture can have on the organization's bottom line and the people within the organization itself. So, essentially with this approach, I truly believe you become a more efficient and streamlined organization. You're not wasting time, resource, or money on delivering products or services that are going to actually have little impact on your customers. You're going to be really focused on doing the things that are going to have that impact that you need. And ultimately, I think it's a great way of improving morale with the people who work in the organization. If you're working on projects that make a real difference to people, then that's going to feel so much more rewarding than sort of doing things that don't have that impact. So, those are the type of benefits that I believe that this having this culture in an organization can deliver. I think it can sometimes surprise UX people going into organizations when an organization isn't doing it the way that almost comes quite naturally to us. But you've just got to remember that, other teams maybe think about it in different ways, what it means to be people-centered, the way that they go about that. And I think it's just a case of, working with them, understanding kind of like what their approach is and like what challenges they've got. And I think once you start getting that across and start to say to them, well, actually, have you thought about like doing it this way? Or let me show you the way that I've done this. Or maybe for this next project, let's just try doing it this way, but, get them involved in it. Then you can definitely start having that impact, and you can start, I think, just like the beautiful thing with what we do, just sort of see the benefits kind of firsthand, to be honest with you. You can really be quite like, yeah, just kind of get it up front and center in front of people. And that's what I've always really enjoyed about this role. When I'm doing interviews, bring people into the interviews, let them observe it, just see things firsthand. First and foremost, I cannot stress enough the importance of building relationships with people throughout the organization, and particularly those that are going to help you champion this approach to others in the business as well. You're not going to change a culture by yourself, nor is a UX team likely to have the influence to do this within an organization. So building relationships with people across teams is the way that you're going to start spreading your message and get other teams bought into it. And it really can then have this snowball effect. When one team sees the value of this approach, they're going to tell other teams, or other teams are going to see it. And suddenly you're going to start seeing this impact that you're making go widespread across the organization. They're all going to be interested in what this UX thing is. And it's where you can start having these conversations and help these other teams, with achieving their targets by adopting it. So relationships are absolutely crucial and fundamental to it all. I think also tied into this, and another key area then, is around the collaboration that you have with the people across the organisation. And again, this is something that I will place a lot of value in. So if you find yourself working in a silo, or you don't include people in your process, if you're quite sensitive about your work and don't react well to feedback, then you're not really going to be someone that other teams particularly enjoy working with. And I think one thing I've definitely learned over the years is that people within an organisation want to feel like they're all valued, that their opinion matters and that they're making a difference, that the voice is being heard, basically. So I think it's really important to remember that, because if you can foster that and make sure that key people are fully involved throughout any project that you're working on, then you're going to build up strong relationships with these people. And, then you can collectively really demonstrate to senior management the value of the approach that you're looking to put in place. It becomes a much easier conversation to start having. I think thirdly, I'd think around your internal PR, to be honest, as well, and how you go about promoting what you do. I've kind of touched on this before, I think, but one of the things I quite like to do is thinking about how you can encourage people from other teams to get involved in the research and testing that you're doing, just so that they can sort of see it and hear it firsthand, sort of see how users are experiencing things without necessarily you relaying it back to them. I think if they see it, actually happening, it's always quite an eye-opening moment if it's not something that they've witnessed before. And then also think about ways, though, that you can get your message out across the wider organisation. One of the places that I previously worked at, they had these bi-weekly sessions on a Friday afternoon. The whole company would essentially be invited to, and basically they usually involve 2 or 3 lightning talks around about 10 to 15 minutes each. One of the things early days I wanted to do in there was to show teams within the business what it actually meant to be people-centered, what UX was, and really get across the benefits of all this. So I use one of these sessions to tell some stories, to share some of the early usability testing that we've done, and just sort of everything really around that, just to start helping people get a sense of what this UX thing actually is, and also to think about how it could benefit them. Very much closing that particular talk with a let's have a chat. No matter what kind of challenges you've got, it's likely that, by actually getting some insight from customers, whatever that may be, depending on your challenge, you're going to learn an awful lot, which is really going to help you with that. So, that was kind of twofold, I guess, trying to spread a message, but also really trying to build up some early relationships and get people talking to me, basically. And then the final thing that I'd say that sort of underpins all this is patience. You've got to have patience for this. Don't go into anything thinking that you're going to change it overnight. All the things I've mentioned above are crucial, but they take time, take effort, and they of course take patience to achieve. I've talked about my first role, bringing in a UX culture there and starting that off with a team, etc. But it took me years, first of all, just to introduce a new approach to problem solving, let alone get this out across a whole organization. So, you've got to take the time to build up the key relationships, be somebody who people actually enjoy working with and value your opinion and your approach to things. And then, you can take all these steps to hopefully start making a difference and getting people on board with this way of working.